Hello tanks and tankettes, and welcome to a view replay courtesy of the Grisha Inquisition here, or possibly it's meant to be the Grisha Inquisition, I'm not entirely sure. He's in that old favourite of mine, the KV-4, and in addition to that, he's in a clan called AMX40. So, I think I have to like propose marriage or something at this point. I'm not entirely certain how this all works, but anyway, we'll see what he thinks about that. So yes, this is the KV-4, and although you can say it's been power creeped, I think it's still an interesting tank. It's still a tank I like, and a big part of that is the gun. It's that unique 107mm gun, which I think you do find now on two other KV-4 variants that are in the game, but they're not ones that you can buy as a premium or get outside of well, one of them's Clan Wars and the other I think has just never been released, so who knows. Anyway, it's a very nice gun. It's got a very good accuracy for a Soviet gun. The other stats are not too bad, the handling's okay, and the tank itself, you know, it's that big solid brick of Soviet steel, but at tier 8 it's not super unique in any regard anymore. I mean, we've got the new German heavies in the form of the VK. In fact, there's a pair of the VK 1001Ps here, and there's the Oho. There we go. I was struggling to remember the name of the Japanese tier 8, but that's a big armoured behemoth as well. So there are other tanks that do what the KV-4 does, and arguably with much more reliable armour. But the KV-4's armour is still pretty good if you get to use it right, and it always was at its best when it's side scraping, and that's exactly what Grisha is doing here. Now the front plate, although it's still you know, 118mm as a value is still pretty good, it's at this tier quite vulnerable to things being shot through it, and of course there's always premium ammo as well, but even without premium there are plenty of things that can pen you. So the frontal armour you can kind of rely on against lower tier targets, but against same and higher tier targets absolutely not. You want to try and side scrape with that 180mm, and even then, if people know what they're doing, they will just punch through the vulnerable areas of the turret. So far though, I mean, this map has afforded Grisha ample opportunities to side scrape. They've not done a huge amount of damage so far, but they're going to do a pretty reasonable amount, so you don't have to be worried on that score. It's not just going to be me going, here's a tank side scraping a lot, because that maybe wouldn't be the most interesting replay, even if perhaps it would be quite instructive. So they're going for that IS-6 out in the open, rather unwarily, although they've backed off now. There's just a bit of general argy-bargy going on in this corner. In fact, they seem to be a bit outnumbered, and Grisha's spotted that they're actually pushing across that bridge there against this VK, who is in now serious trouble. And Grisha themselves, you know, having turned and dashed towards the VK, they've maybe realised that this VK, once they go down, he himself can be fairly easily overwhelmed. That's 4 enemy tanks there. Grisha doesn't have any immediate backup that's particularly survivable. There's a Scorpion there that's helping out, there's a Panther 2 a little ways behind him, but you know, Grisha's going to be taking the brunt of this. But somehow, I mean, the IS-3's just kind of ignored him to go after the Scorpion. Grisha's been able to farm a bit more damage out of those VKs, as Lorraine I think just hit that T-32, and although he's now taken his first damage, this looked like it was going to be very dicey, but instead of being, oh dear, you're about to get completely surrounded and obliterated, it's not gone down like that at all, and the KV-4's armour has actually stood Grisha in pretty good stead. So that's the T-32 down now, so that's 2 out of 4 tanks taken care of, although The IS-3 is about to pop out behind him and do that. Fortunately, it's a low roll, and fortunately he can take the hit, but still he can't really let the IS-3 do that too many times. So with the VK out the way, he immediately starts turning around, goes for the IS-3. This was all with APCR loaded because, you know, it was back against the wall time. And just like that, well, Grisha's lost, what, about 600-ish health. Over 3,000 damage done, 3,000 damage bounced, and is surprisingly, perhaps, still alive. And partly that was down to supporting fire from his team, but also the enemy tanks there, you know, they were not coordinated. It's not like they all pulled round and shot Grisha in vulnerable areas. Somehow, between Grisha's angling and, I'm guessing, probably snapshots from those enemy tanks, they did comparatively little damage. You know, it was the IS-3 coming up behind him that was the greater threat. So that's most of the enemy tanks, enemy heavy tanks dealt with. There's this one IS-6 left, and the rest is tank destroyers and an artillery. And the artillery is not maybe the threat it once would have been to the tank, to a tank like the KV-4, but it could still do some damage. Now that looked like it might have been an okay angle to pen through the tracks, penning the side armour, but it wasn't quite. However, having moved forward a bit, having flattened out that angle means that Grisha was actually able to do a bit of damage. However, there's artillery, which didn't do that much. It was less than 300 damage, but it tracked him, and then the IS-6 was able to pen with AP. And I'm not entirely clear where that shot went through, but it could have been that it went through Grisha's own axle, or that the IS-3 got lucky with the lower front plate. With a high roll, I mean, it would have to have been a high roll, because the IS-3's average AP penetration, not IS-3, IS-6, half of an IS-3, or no, I know what I mean, twice an IS-3, something. I can numbers, I can't numbers, it's a lie. So, where was I? Yes, so it would have had to have been a high roll just to beat the thickness of the armour, is what I'm saying. So maybe it was like a really, really high roll, and that the IS-3 just knew where to aim. So that's the 30 down through the superstructure with just the AP. Could have been a high roll, but you know, the 30 superstructure, despite being the best armour, or is it the best armour of 30 actually? Is it maybe still the front plate from the Tiger P's armour scheme? I'm not entirely sure. But anyway, yeah, the 30's superstructure armour at tier 8 against a gun with, what is this, 226, 227 average pen? Yeah, it's not really going to last. So that was a nice kill. The Scorpion G is low health, and it's got to be tempting, but the Scorpion could hit him himself and kill him potentially. So he plays a little cautiously and lets the Scorpion come to him, and the Scorpion plays right into his hands. One of the other nice things about the KV-4 is it's actually, for a Soviet tank, got a pretty reasonable amount of gun depression. It's nothing special, but you're not going to be struggling as much as you would with some of the other Soviet tanks. So that wasn't bad. There's an outside chance that he might get this artillery for the top gun, but with the Lorraine on still full health and the Scorpion closing in from either side, and this thing not being the fastest beast in the world, it was a remote possibility. But still, that was a pretty good performance. So that was an ace mastery with a steel wall and a bunch of the other ribbons and minor medals. 21 hits out of 21 shots fired, with 4,000 very nearly damage done, 1,451 base XP, and as we shall see on the final screen, it was at least over 3,000 damage bounced with all of that angling early on, and there we go, just over 3,000, 3,170. So all in all, that was a very, very solid performance. And it's really only having to fire that APCR when it came down to that crunch moment of multiple enemies coming around the corner, which is a good time to reach for your premium ammo. That cost him more than otherwise a performance like that would have. But yeah, you know, not every shot he hit penned, but he hit every single shot that he did, which would be a bit harder to do with something like an IS-6. and even the IS-3, it doesn't have terrible accuracy, but it's not not super great. I'm not going to say the KV-4's got super great accuracy either, but you know, it's no Lerva, but it's not bad for a Soviet tank. It's not bad at all. So there we go, just a very solid KV-4 game and possibly a marriage proposal. I'm not quite clear on that, but we'll see how that goes. And hopefully you have found it entertaining, and if you have, you can hit the like button, you can leave any comments below, you can sub to my channel if you haven't already, and as always, stay tuned for more.